أناجي الحق في ليل بهيم أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى أناجي الحق في ليل بهيم أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum, and welcome to Perspective on ITV. My name is Faizel Patel. Boycott, divestment, sanctions, BDS South Africa and the Palestine Solidarity Alliance or PSA has won a court battle against the billboard advertising company called Continental Outdoor Media in the South Gauteng High Court in Johannesburg last week, Thursday. Now the case related to the company's removal of a series of billboards taken out by BDS and PSA, highlighting the Israeli occupation in the form of maps depicting a shrinking Palestinian territory by an increasing Israeli occupation over the many years. Now, beneath the maps, and no doubt you've seen these maps, Palestine, loss of land 1946 to 2010 was printed in bold letters. Now, to give us more perspectives on this issue and the victory and some others, it's a pleasure to welcome Kwara Kekana from BDS South Africa to the Perspective set. Good evening and welcome to Perspective.
Thank you so much for having me, Faizel.
Thank you. First and foremost, why was the billboards removed and who was responsible for removing these billboards?
I mean, the billboards went up in 2012. So, and viewers must know that the court case really has been going on for about 2 years. Mm-hmm. So initially, the Continental Outdoor Media received pressure from the Israeli lobby in this country. Some of the first suggestions was that the caption that you spoke about earlier on in the introduction was that the loss of Palestinian land as a result of Israeli occupation and all of that was not correct. You know, the articulation of how the situation is in Palestine is incorrect, and attempts to distort what history is and what the reality of the matter is. So they came under Israeli pressure from the Israeli lobby in this country in the form of South African Jewish Board of Deputies and the South African Zionist Federation to remove the billboards.
Okay. Now, speaking on these billboards, obviously there must have been some impact that they were having on the South African public in general, on mainstream highways as well. What was the impact on the boards having on everyday South Africans traveling to and from work, coming from work to home? Was there a significant impact?
Definitely, there was a significant impact. As you're driving to work, as you're driving from work, and you come across a billboard that speaks about the loss of Palestinian land since 1956. And you take pause and you ask yourself, even though the maps themselves speak volumes, but however there isn't comprehensive information, it makes you take pause, but also want to get to know more information about the issues happening there. So once you get to interact with the billboard there, then you reflect on the issues and start asking yourself questions. How does Palestinians lose land from 1956 as so much land over a period of time? And what is occupation? What does that really mean? So it makes people stand up and start to ask relevant questions.
Okay. Now, the area of the boards, obviously, I'm not sure how many boards you did have in place. Was there a meeting with regards to the strategic placing of these boards? Was there specific areas targeted?
I mean, obviously, we wanted to get an area in which you have as many cars as passing by. So it was on the M1, yes, on Empire Road. That's specifically the one that the judge also spoke about. The specific billboard was the one in question that the judge herself sort of pinpointed in terms of also as part of the remedies, yes, where this court case is concerned, was the one on the M1. So strategically, the M1 was selected because of its the traffic that goes through there in the mornings.
Yes. Yeah. Now, statistics-wise, obviously you said that the boards had a certain amount of impact on the South African public, people traveling to and from work. Do you have statistics to that?
No, we don't really have statistics, but I mean, our recent campaigns, for example, when Gaza was under attack, we had a hang of a banner over a bridge campaign. So we picked strategic bridges in South Africa. Specifically, the M1 was very popular. So what we would do is we'll drop a banner over the bridge saying #boycott apartheid Israel, and had a BDS logo there as well. And the kind of reception we'd get from motorists, either hooting, giving a thumbs up. Of course, we had some who were very insulting us. But I mean, we know we continued. But nevertheless, the response we had from motorists hooting at us, giving the thumbs up, but also, shouting from the top of their, the voices out of the windows and saying, free, free Palestine, Pambili, we're with you. That kind of interaction we had from motorists was really, encouraging as well. So I want to believe that is the kind of reception as well that motorists also gave of when interacting with the billboard.
Yes. Now, we're speaking about the Gaza war, obviously, and this pause obviously had an impact, like you mentioned, on the South African public. Now, because these boards were taken down, BDS launched a High Court application against Continental Outdoor Media, who was obviously you advertised with. Can you give us a brief description from then? How did the High Court application go, and then going on to the victory that eventually was handed down last week, Thursday?
Sure thing, Faizel. Unfortunately, I'm not a legal fully, but I'll attempt to just outline the most important things that came out of the High Court ruling. The first important one, and I think we must celebrate it, is that the removal of the billboards was declared unlawful and unconstitutional by the South Gauteng High Court. And secondly, Continental Outdoor Media was ordered to put up the billboard within 10 days of the ruling. And lastly, but also most importantly, I think, is that Continental Outdoor Media must then pay for all legal costs that are involved pertaining to the case.
Okay. Now, speaking on putting up the billboards within 10 days, obviously the judgment was ended down last week, Thursday. Have BDS engaged with Continental Outdoor Media to ensure that these boards are placed up before the 10th day?
What we're doing is we got legal assistance from the Legal Resource Center, which were the ones that are handling our case. So any discussions pertaining to the court case in itself we will not directly have those kind of discussions, but our lawyers from Legal Resource Center will then have those kind of conversations with Continental Outdoor Media.
Did you get any opposition from the Jewish Board of Deputies or from the South African Zionist Federation with regards to the victory that was achieved by BDS with regards to Continental Media?
I mean, not outright. I mean, one thing we must applaud South Africans for this is that the immense support we really felt and we got from South Africans pertaining to this particular issue was overwhelming. And I remember on the day we got our judgment, our lawyers called us at 11 o'clock, and the judgment was going to be handed out at 2:30 at the High Court.
Yes.
So immediately we used what kind of platforms we had access to, social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, to just say to those of us that have been with us and supporting us on this particular issue, those of you can come through, please come through and come and hear what the judge has to say on this particular issue. Defeat or not, be with us and continue to support us on this particular issue. The support was really overwhelming, I must tell you, Faizel. It was really overwhelming, and we must thank South Africans on that particular note.
Okay. Now, speaking on this, obviously you've got a landmark victory against Continental Outdoor Media. Where to now from here? What happens? Are you going to put up more billboards? Are you going to create more awareness? Obviously, the Gaza war, there's a ceasefire now obviously in place. Hopefully that will last for quite a while. But to make, obviously, you want to create more awareness. Will there be more billboards placed?
What we want to do, and as you raise a very important issue there about the ceasefire being in place, but people must not automatically think that because there's a ceasefire in place, as Patel suggests, that what Israel does, it continues the war and aggression in the Gaza Strip every 2 years. But beyond that, there is still the occupation in the West Bank, in particular the Gaza Strip as well, East Jerusalem. But also Palestine in its entirety is not free. You've got the question of Palestinian refugees that is still in place, but also Palestinians living in Israel today. There's the question of they don't enjoy the same rights as the settlers that live in those areas. So overall speaking, we must still continue to advance the freedom of Palestinians overall, and not want to isolate the situation in Gaza. Of course, it's very terrible, and it happens every 2 years, like I've said, and as Patel suggests. But beyond that, we need to also come to the party where solidarity actions are concerned. And we would love to take out more billboards if the resource BDS South Africa resource capacity wise will permit. We would love to do that as a way of conscientizing and educating fellow South Africans about the issue. Okay.
Just before we go for a break, there's one question I want to put through to you. I spoke to Mohammed Desai, he's also from BDS. He was saying that one of the billboards that you want to put up is at the Johannesburg International Airport. Can maybe in a minute or two just tell us about that?
I mean, there are two issues that we're working around in terms of where billboards are concerned. I mean, other things we can't, of course, reveal our strategies at this stage. But one other thing about the OR Tambo International Airport is two significant issues. The first one is Oliver Tambo himself.
Yes.
Oliver Tambo led the international anti-apartheid movement. He's the longest-serving president of the African National Congress, and he led the ANC at a time really where the international solidarity movement was at its highest. Yes. And what BDS and the global BDS movement does, it models its approach and tactics against the international anti-apartheid movement. So the significance of having a billboard there, whatever caption it speaks about, whatever message it sends across, the significance there is about Oliver Tambo, the spirit of Oliver Tambo himself, the spirit of the international anti-apartheid movement, but also because it's a national key point. But then again, tourists themselves, people that come from elsewhere in the world can be able to interact with that kind of messaging there as well.
Okay, we're going to go for a break. After the break, we will continue speaking to Kwara Kekana. She's from BDS South Africa. Stay tuned to Perspective.
أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى إلهي صرت في ظرف عصيب فاكشف البلوى فيا ربي أنا.
Welcome back to Perspective. This evening we're speaking to Kwara Kekana. She's from BDS South Africa. Last week, Thursday, they had a landmark victory against Continental Auto Media with regards to the Palestinian billboards that you've seen on the highways. So we're discussing that issue and we're discussing some other issues as well, and that includes Woolworths. Kekana, Kwara, Woolworths, you guys called a boycott against Woolworths. We've seen the pickets outside many, many stores. Can you tell us how successful has that campaign been?
I think firstly, again, it's very important. We must thank the viewers and South Africans in general for really responding to the call by BDS South Africa where the consumer boycott the campaign is concerned. Yes. I've had people that really tell me that they can't go anywhere else but Woolworths, but they're really struggling, but they've not crossed the picket line. And that really has been fantastic. And at this stage, we've seen people really coming out and cutting up their Woolies rewards cards, closing off their accounts at this stage. We're compiling the data as BDS South Africa at this stage, so we don't really have statistics at this stage. One other thing that we've been monitoring is the Woolworths share price. Again, we can't really attribute the boycott call, the correlation there. We can't really attribute that to them, but want to believe also the significant impact that the boycott call in itself has on the share price.
Yes. Now, on this Woolworths campaign that you had, the boycott against Woolworths, although it was maybe embraced by a large contingency of South Africans, there were some people that didn't embrace it. They still shopped at Woolworths. Why do you think is that?
I mean, similar to the international anti-apartheid movement, you had people that really were apathetic, that would argue that, but South Africa is so far away in the world. I myself, living, for example, in London, have no business in boycotting South African products. And we want to say that South Africans in particular know too well what the history of international solidarity has done for this country. And those who continue to cross the picket line, we are saying to you, you're on the wrong side of history. And want to urge you to stop going to Woolworths and stop shopping at Woolworths. Join us, join the consumer boycott campaign, and join other progressive South Africans in this particular call to boycott Woolworths because it continues to stock Israeli products.
Okay, on that Woolworths also, I want to bring up a point. Initially, before the boycott started, there was a press release by Woolworths, which I've managed to get as well. Mm-hmm. And they said they will not stop Israeli products. And a few weeks later, they changed that statement. Did they revert back to you or to BDS to say why they've changed the statement?
Woolworths and its arrogant attitude, really, they refused to engage with BDS South Africa, which also demands of us as a solidarity movement in this country to elevate the boycott Woolworths campaign. So constantly we've been trying to engage with Woolworths, sending emails, attempting to call to speak to the CEO and convene a meeting, but they've refused outright to engage with BDS South Africa. And that is why we're elevating the campaign, also with the National Days of Action. And those will be happening the last Saturday of every month. So we're calling everyone to come out, but we will issue a call on the specific date for the National Day of Action. So go to our Facebook page and Twitter accounts as well. So when we issue the call as well, you are on board with us and you don't cross the picket line.
Okay. Now, speaking about Woolworths, obviously there's other companies within South Africa that probably are stocking Israeli products. As a journalist, I've received a lot of queries from companies like Pick n Pay or companies like G4S. Is PDS done any campaigns or proposed any campaigns against these companies?
Okay, sure, Faizel. There are three campaigns that BDS South Africa currently has called on a boycott for. The first is Woolworths, of course, but the second one is G4S. What G4S does is directly involved in the occupation. It is responsible for the IT systems and infrastructure at the checkpoints, the Israeli prisons, the torture centers and detention facilities that house Palestinian political prisoners. And Palestinians themselves have called for the isolation of G4S. So that is one company as well that there's a campaign against G4S, but also SodaStream. SodaStream is a company that that has those fizzy drinks, those homemade fizzy drinks and sparkling water. So we've called on, and in fact, G4S and SodaStream are international BDS campaigns, not just BDS South Africa campaigns. So we're also asking people to also, join those campaigns as well. But again, Faizel, the issue with Woolworths and other companies as well is that we have targeted campaigns similar to the international anti-apartheid movement's tactics and strategies. So our campaigns are targeted, specific to a particular campaign at the time. So for now, we have a targeted strategic campaign against Woolworths. And after that, we'll evaluate and then move on to perhaps another retailer or another campaign.
Okay. Now, there are some critics, and I've heard this a lot, because we get around a lot, that the notion is that why boycott Woolworths? It's not having an impact. How do you explain it to the people that the campaigns against Woolworths have an impact? How do you sort of put these people and to say that, instead of boycotting Woolworths, let's go shop at Woolworths? Obviously, some people are critical of your boycott. How do you convince them that boycotting Woolworths is the right thing to do?
Of course, we also get the same kind of questions. Why Woolworths? Why not X and X place? Or why not X and X supermarket? And the first response is that, one, Woolworths prides itself on being an ethical kind of employer, but also an ethical business. They run an ethical business, but also, so they really throw around that word of ethics into the mix. So then as BDS South Africa and the global BDS movement and the BDS and the solidarity movement in this country, we're saying, you speak of ethics, but we're saying to you, why do you keep stocking Israeli products and crossing the global picket line? We've called on companies and multinational corporations that those who continue to profit from the occupation and continue to believe that they can profit from the suffering of Palestinians, we as a solidarity movement in this country, we as BDS South Africa are saying, not in our name and not in our time, won't allow that to happen. So again, Faizel, similar to the international anti-apartheid movement, there are targeted campaigns and strategic campaigns. Our campaign against Woolworths is targeted and is strategic.
All right. Now, we know that there was a conference by the South African Jewish Board of Deputies on Sunday. The ANC Youth League has called on, obviously they protested in front of there. And then BDS subsequently released a statement on Monday, and they said the South African Palestine Solidarity and Human Rights Organization, BDS South Africa, agrees with the ANC Youth League that the South African Jewish Board of Deputies are a bunch of hypocrites. You want to explain that statement?
Sure, Faizel. We definitely throw our weight behind the ANC Youth League in this province, in Gauteng, in calling the South African Jewish Board of Deputies hypocrites. One, they convened a conference under the banner of celebrating 20 years of democracy in this country. And all of a sudden, the South African Jewish Board of Deputies wants to claim that they, were part of the struggle for liberation in this country, when we know too well the posture of the South African Jewish Board of Deputies in this country, but also in South Africa today, but also in the world today. The South African Jewish Board of Deputies and their sister organization, the South African Zionist Federation, were amongst the first organizations in this country to celebrate the killings of civilians in the last 52 days during Operation Protective Edge, where we saw the death of about 491 children. And we know the kind of sophisticated military artillery that Israel has in its capacity. So they're able to they're able to differentiate between a child, a piece of furniture, or whatever it may be. So the killings of children are targeted. So the Israeli government and the Israeli Defense Force have strategically, systematically targeted children. So when the South African Jewish Board of Deputies really wants to come out and celebrate democracy, we fail to understand at what length. And we also know too well that the SAJB Jewish Board of Deputies as well, during the struggle for liberation in this country, were friends, in fact, of the apartheid government. So we fail to understand why all of a sudden now they want to claim to have had a piece of the pie in the struggle for liberation in this country. It's in fact an insult to the many brave men and women that died for the struggle of liberation in this country.
Okay. Now, one of the speakers that was supposed to speak at this particular conference was the Gauteng Premier, David Makura. He subsequently withdrew, which is obviously in your statement as well. But then there was another person, Penyaza Lesufi, that was going to speak. Now, the question is, and maybe you can elaborate, why did Gauteng Premier David Makura withdraw? And obviously, wouldn't Penyaza Lesufi be aware that of the whole conference? And why did he speak at the why was he going to speak at the conference?
The reality of the matter is that the South African Jewish Board of Deputies and South African Zionist Federation, unfortunately in this country, they have resources on their side, but also exert an amount of pressure in government as well. And through our engagements as well, this is one point that government is conceded to. The Premier David Makura did withdraw, in fact, that is correct, Faizel. Yeah. And he did withdraw after immense pressure from the solidarity movement in this country to ask him, but what are you doing at this event? Why do you want to associate yourself at this event? And we must condemn the presence of MEC Lesufi at this event, and he must be engaged. He must account as to why he spoke at this event.
Okay. But Yansa, we just have little over 2 minutes left. Your last few comments to our viewers?
I mean, the most important thing I think would like to say to our viewers is that, one, thank you so much for continuing to support BDS South Africa and our initiatives, our campaigns and our efforts. But the most important campaign currently that we're running is the Boycott Woolworths campaign. And we're urging all of you that are watching this show this evening, talk to your family members. Pick up the phone and call 5 people that you know and ask them to join the Boycott Woolworths campaign. Follow us on Twitter at BDS South Africa and our Facebook page as well, BDS South Africa, and on Instagram as well, BDS South Africa as well. And interact with us there as well. Drop us an email, info@BDS South Africa as well, if you need any kind of information from BDS South Africa. When we do make that demand for the National Day of Action in the next week or so, which is the last Saturday of every month, but every month we will then give out a date as to when the National Day of Action it is. Participate, join in through different kinds of actions, jamming of tills, protest actions outside the specific Woolworths that you want to target, flash mobs, any kind of action that it may be. Come to the BDS offices for material, flyers, and posters. And if you can print them yourselves, by all means, also do that. We're willing to send you, the kind of printing that you can print. But please, join the Boycott Woolworths campaign.
But Kwara, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers will wish you success in your various campaigns.
Thank you so much for having me, Faizel.
There you have it. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of another edition of Perspective. Remember, you can interact with me by sending me a mail on faisal@itvnetworks.tv. Drop me a tweet on @Faizi143, or you can even comment on facebook.com/Faizel Patel. For myself, Faizel Patel, and the team here at ITV, fi amanillah. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
أناجي الحق في ليل لهيم أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى أناجي الحق في ليل لهيم أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى إلهي صرت في ظرف عصيب فاكشف البلوى فيا ربي